Let's talk about the phenomenon that is Generation Z. You may know us as the lazy, phone-obsessed, Tide Pod eating, ungrateful generation. I may be biased, but I see my generation as the product of the world that surrounds us. You see, on June 29, 2007, Apple released a piece of technology that would forever change the world, the iPhone. As a result, in 2012, smartphone ownership in the United States crossed 50%, marking the fastest technological adoption in human history. This single event shaped Gen Z's upbringing and, by extension, our views and actions in everyday life and politics. Unlike previous generations, we grew up constantly connected. Receiving an overwhelming amount of information has conditioned us to perceive a reality where the once exaggerated and fictional now seems realistic and attainable. My generation faces challenges in political engagement and self-identity. Growing up in this era has profoundly influenced how I see the world, from daily life to politics. There are so many instances where Gen Z has used social media apps to express resistance of political regimes. Instagram blackout in 2020. I just wanted to take a minute to say that as I was looking for evidence or artifacts to show that we use social media as a form of resistance, this is what came up on TikTok. And I don't know how showing black screens on a timeline feed is specifically violating community guidelines, and I think this goes to show how heavily sensitized our sites and apps are becoming.
Social media world going dark in support of the Black Lives Matter movement Tuesday. Celebrities and everyday people joining voices around the world, outraged by the killings of black people in the U.S.
Amplify voices of color and
TikTok specifically, spreading awareness rather than misinformation, information on how to maneuver protests, educating people on their rights for illegal enforcement interactions, registering for Trump rallies to ultimately troll Trump, spreading awareness about Gaza and Palestine.
So this all started a couple of months ago. I had a very anxious night, and honestly I spent a couple hours unpacking my transition and just how much my life has changed since I first started taking testosterone. Cool, I see you're in my business, and if you have time to be in my business, then I'm assuming that you have time to hear about Operation Olive Branch. I'm sure you guys have heard of them already, but if you haven't, it's this organization that is aiming to connect people with families who are in need of evacuation or any sort of supplies or donations to get out of Gaza. For more information, you guys can check out the link in my bio.
Information on how to register to vote, Here's What You Can Do series, engaging in critical race theory and actual history. The list goes on. And now, everyone is spreading the message to boycott specific companies for rolling back their DEI policies. The political engagement is there whether it's a left or right ideology. Everything is political, but every day I see current events, the political state of the world, ways to help, be sustainable. It's truly incredible. Past generations didn't even know what was happening their next town over. Since I could remember, I had access to the internet, thus, what's happening around the world. In most cases, scrolling on social media is a way for us to relax, unwind, laugh, share with friends. But media overload happens when you're overwhelmed by the amount of information available through various media channels. If you would like to learn more about the topic of media overload, please check out Amir's video. It's truly a piece of art. When the volume exceeds our ability to process it, we feel stressed, numb, and unable to focus. As Sharma et al. Explains, users are unable to filter the trustworthy information due to its enormous size, which leads to social media fatigue, anxiety, and psychological state where the decision-making is affected. It's exhaustion, this non-stop stimulation that creates emotional burnout and blurs the line between information and identity. You could see a cute video of a cat and then a funny Fortnite video, and then there's 3 videos showing genocide, police brutality, and something about political state of the US, which perfectly leads into our next topic. The influence of technology and social media in my upbringing has placed me and many of Gen Z in a state of hyper-reality, where distinguishing between actual reality and its digital simulation becomes increasingly difficult. If you would like to learn more about hyperreality, please check out Cole's video. It's extremely intriguing and he does a really good job at explaining it. Social media has conditioned us to prioritize wealth, status, appearances, and other forms of symbolism. Whether I like to admit it or not, I often find myself preoccupied with how others perceive me. constantly evaluating my image in both digital and real life spaces. This shared experience is one of my many connections to Generation Z, as many of us feel the same way but struggle to understand why. I believe it stems from our dependence on short bursts of dopamine from social media, which has left little time for true self-reflection and personal growth. Sinclair and Jordan refer to this cycle of social comparison as a byproduct of raunch culture, where empowerment gets entangled with performance and objectification, leading to symptoms of self-surveillance, body shame, and depression. Even when you're not actively engaging, social media still shapes the spaces around you. Jean Twenge said it best: if you're not on it, you're left out. Regardless of whether one actively engages in social media, its impact is unavoidable. The validation-seeking behaviors and emphasis on digital presence are ingrained in our generation's social interactions. This influence is not a byproduct of personal choices, but it's a direct result of growing up in an era where digital interaction crafts identity. As Owen and McCammon state in Rethinking Generations, each cohort has a distinctive composition and character reflecting the circumstances of its unique origin and history. While individual experiences vary, the shared realities of digital immersion and shifting social dynamics define Generation Z. The constant exposure to curated digital content has not shaped only our interactions but also our understanding of success, self-worth, and community. By looking at how media overload messes with our sense of self, I'm really asking, what does it mean to grow up performing for an audience? Social media isn't just where we connect, it's where we build and edit who we are, but at the same time, it boxes us in. From burnout to body image, my research shows one clear pattern. We're caught between trying to be ourselves and trying to be seen. Even when we push back, the algorithm still has a say. Now, some people may say Gen Z just needs to get off their phones, that we're anxious because we chose to be, but that ignores the system we were born into. We didn't choose to be shaped by screens. Others say social media empowers us, and sometimes it does, but that same power demands performance. Even when we're resisting, we're still playing by the rules of the algorithms that reward visibility over authenticity. Not everyone is affected equally either. For some, being online is a survival, an escape, a job, a community. So logging off isn't that simple. I hope this video makes people think differently about Gen Z. Not just as another label, but as a generation shaped by screens, pressure, and the need to be noticed. Thank you for watching.